By Jube there. It's time for the headlines, but before I hand you over to Thelma, who will be sitting for that, let me tell you, Ghana works better when we all play our part and you pay your TV license fee. So do your part today. Dial star 447 star 333 hash to pay. Star 447 star 333 hash to pay, and you're a better Ghanaian by doing so. Now, hey adventurers and nature lovers, picture waterfalls, forest trails, and vibrant local experiences, all wrapped in the spirit of adventure meets nature. Mark your calendars from September 19th to 21st. Trek GH is inviting you on a breathtaking journey to the east. It's not just a hike, it's a celebration of Ghana's natural beauty, culture, and heritage. Whether you're a seasoned trekker or just craving a fresh escape, this is your moment. Get ready to walk, connect, and discover. And for more information on how to connect, discover, you can subscribe or contact 054 668 5054 or 055 338 2980. You may just catch me escaping on that Trek GA journey to the east as well over the weekend. Let's now bring you what the papers are saying and see which paper begins. The papers that we'll be discussing this morning. The Ghanaian Times leads with ensuring safety, government to crack down on rickety vehicles. Transport Minister Mr. Joseph Bukari Nikbe covered there. Automotive industry receives boost. Triton Motors to locally assembly jack vehicles in Ghana, turning across waste into wealth. Gaio provides a solution. You can find that on page 12. And Gaio is big on waste into wealth. MIIF awards scholarships to 45 female students of UMAT, so the Minerals Income Investment Fund. There on the Ghanaian Times. Let's see what the next paper is saying this morning away from the Ghanaian Times. The Daily Graphic has your investments are safe. Nana Oye Bampo Ado, who is the Chief of Staff, Deputy Chief of Staff there. Bank of Ghana drops policy rate to 21.5%. Bringing conflict, trauma, agony grip displaced victims in the story. Yeah, quite unfortunate for the Daily Graphic that has it. The Daily Guide, TikToker jailed 7 months over threat to kill president. And that's him, David Affo, who's been jailed. Public debt hits 628.8 billion Ghana cedis. That's the Finance Minister, Dr. Kessel, out of forcing the selective justice. Mass dismissals erode Mohammed's goodwill, and there's a report on that. Kumasi shuts down as Asantehima goes home. And that's the Asantehima Nana Amakunidu Yadom, the third at the chief mourner, Yotumfo Osei-Tutu, there. Second on the Daily Guide. For the Chronicle this morning, GIS officers on rampage is a question. Lawyer accuses them of unlawful occupation, threat and intimidation of his client. Brian, I am committed to politics of delivery, not empty rhetoric. And that is Brian Echampong. The Entrepreneurs and Innovators Network declares support for Kennedy Ejapong. Inflation falls to 4-year low. And that's the governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Johnson Isiama, there. For the Daily Searchlight, monetary policy rate slashed by 3.5% to 21.5%. Tokonu strikes back, challenges her removal as Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. Ghana launches 2025 Diaspora Summit, reaffirms commitment to global African unity. That's the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Honorable Okujeto Ablakwa. There, 2026 MPP presidential primary, Kennedy Ejapong seeks grassroots votes, pledges welfare, and that's Mr. Kennedy Ejapong captured there. The Dispatch has democracy must bring a real improvements in people's lives. President Mahama there. Air pollution kills more Ghanaians than HIV and AIDS and malaria. Quite worrying. See that story on page 5. Shown on the back of the World Day for Clean Skies. Tackling corruption key to Ghana's economic resilience. Julius Deborah, the Chief of Staff, covered there. Baumia is MPP's best bet to win 2026 presidential elections. MPP's Richard Nyama saying that Ghana's Agri Minister appeals to Denmark to help address Ghana's food shortfalls. See that on page 12 as well. These are the stories carried by the Dispatch this morning. And those are the papers that we have in the big stories on the front pages covered and will be discussed by Thelma and her guests. So over to you, T. I'll be back for that security conversation, but there's lots that you want to sample from Thelma's desk. T.
Thank you, Martiti. Martiti will be back for a conversation on conflicts and how we can resolve them in the next segment. So look out for that conversation. Welcome to the headline segment. At the table, I have Dr. Carl McAlhin, who's Deputy Director of International Relations for the NDC, and he'll be sharing thoughts on the big stories of the day with us. I must say that we're expecting Mr. Prince Safa, former CEO of GIFEC, who also speaks for the NPP, to join our conversation. He is yet to arrive, and when he does, we'll pick some thoughts from him. Doc, good morning to you, and welcome back to the table.
Thank you very much, my good sister. And good morning to our well listeners.
Right, so let's get some of the big stories underway today, unless you have something you want to say quickly before we start.
When we start, we'll talk
then
about
you will have a lot to say.
Everything that you want us to discuss.
Righty, so the former Chief Justice is in the news again. Yesterday, she petitioned the High Court over her removal by President John Mahama as Justice of the Supreme Court. At the heart of her application, she holds that the President used a single process to remove her from two distinct judicial offices, and she said that it violates the Constitution and that the President does not have the power to do so. She also challenged the legal foundation for her removal, asserting that the President cannot constitutionally use the procedure established for removing a Chief Justice under Article 1466 to simultaneously remove her from her position as Chief Justice. So she says that these are separate offices and they require distinct removal processes under the Constitution. And some of the laws she cited to back her case, Article 23 and 141 of the 1992 Constitution, Order 55 of CI 47, and she's seeking to nullify the warrant of removal issued by the President on September 1, which removed her from office both as Chief Justice and also as Justice of the Supreme Court. And we'll get into the details of what that means. I want to pick your quick thoughts on this. CJ says the President does not have the power to remove her from two positions at the same time, and that the two require different processes which were not followed. What do you think?
Thank you very much. And I think that when the President received the petitions from, I think, is it Daniel Ofori or so, or a Ghanaian, who petitioned the President about the conduct of the Ghana's Chief Justice. I think that there are laid down procedure that the President needs to follow. And it has been discussed extensively by legal brains and social scientists and politicians and all that you can mention. From what we have observed when this issue came up, I believe that the President did what is expected of him, that is enshrined in our Constitution, by sending the petition to the appropriate quarters for the process to go through. And I think that we are not dealing with any ordinary person in Ghana. We are dealing with the head of the Judicial Council.
In this case, as we say it, the former head of the judicial service, because she's no longer Chief Justice, so she's not the head anymore. Yeah. But let's bring some legal perspectives to bear on this matter, and I'll go to our phone line. So hold on to your submission for just a few minutes, and let's engage a legal person on the matter so that we get some clarity. Lawyer Dr. Chief Anoche Frimpong is joining us on the line. Lawyer, good morning to you. Thank you for making the time. I want to understand exactly what the CJ is petitioning. She says that the procedure for removing a Chief Justice from office are very different from the procedures for removing a Supreme Court judge, a Justice of the Supreme Court, and that one procedure cannot be used to remove her from both. What really are the constitutional provisions in both cases?
Yes, the constitutional provision is this. It is catered for under Article 146 of the 1992 Constitution. And it says that in the case of an ordinary justice of the Superior Court, so Superior Court, we are talking about the High Court, Court of Appeal, Supreme Court, an ordinary justice of the Superior Court, the petition would be referred to the Chief Justice, who would consider whether the case has got any merit at all. And the merit is where in Latin we call prima facie. If it hasn't got any merit, then that is the end of the matter. But if it turns out that it has some merit or there is prima facie case, then it is the duty of the Chief Justice to set up the panel to go into the merits of whatever that was or that is before her. Then, in the case of a Chief Justice, so you will see that the dismissal of a Superior Court of Law in Ghana is fully a judicial matter because it is within the ambit of the Chief Justice, and the committee she sets up would not include anybody outside the judiciary. That's very important. In the case of the dismissal of the Chief Justice, it is a political matter. It is the president that sets up the committee after considering the merits of the case together with the Council of State. The Council of State more or less is an executive body. It's part of the executive. It's not a judicial body and it is not parliamentary. So it is a wing of the executive. Then when they consider that there is prima facie case to be answered, then the president would have to set up the committee. The committee is made up of 2 persons selected by the president who are Supreme Court judges, and then 3 other persons who should not be MPs or members of the, what you call, Council of State or being lawyers. So it means if you are not a lawyer, you also cannot be a judge. So apart from these exceptions, the president can choose anybody at all. And then the report is given back to the president to consider, not to consider. The moment it's given to him, he is compelled by the recommendations just to announce whether or not the person is going to be dismissed. So the procedures are completely different.
Based on the response that you've given me, Lawyer Noche, is she then right to say that while she was, at least until her removal as Chief Justice, she was no longer serving as Chief Justice, she was serving as a Superior Court judge, and therefore the president could not apply the same removal processes as he did for a Chief Justice to a Justice of the Supreme Court? And so is she right to say that this removal was unconstitutional?
Please, her removal as a Chief Justice is constitutional.
But her removal as a Supreme Court Justice is what I mean.
Please, it is implicit in the removal of her position as a Chief Justice.
In that way, you just told me that in the case of a Justice of the Supreme Court, the Chief Justice has to be brought in and given that petition, and then he will need to set up the committee, and the membership of the committee is clearly stated in the Constitution. 2 justices of the Supreme Court not involved in the matter, 2 persons appointed by the Judicial Council, 1 lawyer nominated by the Ghana Bar Association who has at least 12 years standing, and it is this group of people who are supposed to determine what you've educated us on, the prima facie case against the justice of the Supreme Court. So was this process followed?
It's not the process. Article 14 says, in connection with the Chief Justice, I've already spelled out who should appoint and then who are the members. But what the Chief Justice, and the simple answer I should give is that the Chief Justice thinks that there is a difference between the position of a Chief Justice and that of a Superior Court judge. Please, it is only the removal process that is different. But when it comes to the substance of it, and this is where it is important, we are talking about substance and not form. Form refers to formality, but we are talking about substance. If somebody dies and we are wearing white clothes, like the Gans do, like the Guinea people of Guinea do, and then somebody dies in Ashanti and they are wearing red or black, the substance is that somebody is dead, and the two constitutes a funeral. And once you lose your position as a as a Chief Justice, you cannot maintain your position as a Justice of the Superior Court of Ghana because of the fact that the substance for dismissing a Chief Justice is the same as that for the dismissal of any judge of the Superior Court. And what is the substance? Where there is this infirmity of mind or body, where there is, what do you call it, an abuse of power, or where you are found to be incompetent. You understand? The first one, stated misbehavior, that's abuse. The stated misbehavior or infirmity of mind, or you are found to be, the third one just forgotten. You understand? Stated misbehavior, and then the other one I've forgotten. And it is the same. These 3 apply to all the judges of the Superior Court, including the Chief Justice. So are you telling me that having been found to be grossly incompetent as a Chief Justice, step down to the level of a Superior Court judge, in that case, you are competent to sit? No. It is the same grounds that are used to sack or dismiss a judge of the Superior Court, just as a Supreme Court judge. And here in law, we call the procedure formality, and then we call the end result substance. And the end result is that you are either incompetent, or there is stated misbehavior against you, or there is infirmity of mind or body against you. So I'm surprised that the Chief Justice does not understand this. And my worry again is that, having explained the legal aspect, let's talk about morality. So is the Chief Justice saying that, having been the head of everybody, she wants to go and sit there, and now everybody will be on top of her? Please, this is not acceptable anywhere in the world. And that is the reason why in almost every constitution in the world, when somebody leaves office as a president, the person cannot go and work under anybody. Rather, they create an office for the person. He can set up an NGO. He becomes a father of the state. He's going to continue to be given emoluments till the person dies. All because we believe the position you are holding was sacrosanct, and we should treat you as you don't come under anybody again. And that's the reason why you too, as a Chief Justice, you continue to receive some emoluments. We protect you. You don't come under anybody again.
Okay.
Well, the understanding of the law is a bit something. But my sister Thelma, the good thing for the development of the law is that she is testing every aspect of the law aspect out in the Constitution, so that it becomes a precedent, it becomes a case study for students and lawyers and judges to rely on in future. That what is the end result, what is the difference between being dismissed as a Chief Justice and being dismissed as an ordinary judge of the Chief Justice, of the Superior Court of Ghana. And then you will get a case to refer to that Tokoru versus Attorney General. It becomes a precedent. And so I believe that one day when she is very old or when she is no more alive, her children and grandchildren would amuse themselves and be impressed that the law reports are full of cases bearing the name of their departed relative.
Lawyer Noche, I think that we've just earned or perhaps booked ourselves another opportunity to have you on the table again to explain in a bit more detail what this means for judicial independence, considering the fact that, as you've said, the law is being tested, and I'll look forward to further engagement on this topic with you. Legal practitioner Dr. Yawanoche Frimpong is the one who just shared his opinions with us on the latest petition from the camp of the former Chief Justice, again asking for a nullification of the revocation of her position as Supreme Court Justice, and we've just heard one voice on the matter. Dr. Carl, you were nodding along as Lawyer Noche was speaking, and I'll give you the opportunity to continue with your point before I introduce the former CEO of GIFEC, Mr. Prince Sefa, who has now joined our conversation at the table. Prince, good morning to you and welcome back. Good to have you. Both of you are wearing white, like... Did you call each other?
No.
Two people
He called me.
I decided to go for peace.
Yes,
we like it. We like the peaceful atmosphere. So, Prince, before you joined us, we were talking to Lawyer Noche Frimpong on the latest move by the former Chief Justice, challenging the President's authority to use the same procedure in removing her as Chief Justice, in removing her as a Justice of the Supreme Court. Lawyer Noche thinks that it was a matter of course, and that once the process had been followed, there was not a chance that she could be able to go back to serving as a Justice of the Supreme Court if she had once held the topmost position among her peers in that space. Doc was about to wrap up his submission, so let's hear him and then I'll give you the same opportunity. Doc.
Good. Okay, thank you very much. As I said, we all heard what my good brother Dr. Noche said, and as a legal expert, I believe that what he said was, clear. Serving as the Chief Justice of a nation and then being a member of the Supreme Court judges, because there may be cases that the Supreme Court, the Chief Justice may be part of the panel to look into that issue. Look, if at that level you have done something contrary to the Constitution of the nation that has called for a petition, through the President to the Council of, the Council of State, is that the case? For them to look into it?
Yeah.
And then they've gone through, the President was very meticulous and he used the constitutional, rules and regulation, using the 1469, the power that has been bestowed in him as a president. And you as the Chief Justice, I think that our dear former Chief Justice should understand.
The argument is that the President does have the right to go through those procedures to remove a Chief Justice from office, and the Constitution makes that very clear, that the petition should be brought against the Chief Justice to start the process. The President must refer it to the independent authority, and in this case we saw that process happening. However, when it comes to the removal of a justice from the superior courts, the Constitution has a different approach, and it says that the petition must be sent to the President. The President must refer it to the Chief Justice. The Chief Justice must determine that there's a prima facie case by, investigating the initial complaint. And then if a prima facie case is determined, then 5 people are set up in a committee to interrogate the case.
I think that.
And that's the provision that the former CJ is saying that was not followed. He says that the President set up the committee, set up 5 people, but as when it comes to a position as a justice of the Supreme Court, it is the Chief Justice who should initiate the proceedings against her to remove her. And so she finds it unconstitutional that the president used CJ process to remove her as J of the SC.
I think that this situation is very complex because you as the Chief Justice, if you have committed some offenses.
When she was suspended, an acting Chief Justice was put in place. So by her estimation, and I'm by no means assuming I'm a legal expert here, but reading what she's putting out, she perhaps expected that the acting Chief Justice would be petitioned to follow the process of removing her from the League of Justices of the Supreme Court.
The question here, what I'm trying to put across is that you as the Chief Justice, you have conducted yourself in a manner that has caused your removal from office. So are you telling me that you have been removed from that office as Chief Justice, but you must be sent back to act as a Justice of the Supreme Court?
Okay.
Is it what our former Chief Justice is telling us?
Let's invite Prince into the conversation. And I must say that we will be going over to Kumasi very shortly, so that we touch base quickly with our correspondents there on the dossier of the late Asante Hema. So I'll pick your thoughts quickly and then I'll connect to Nicholas on the phone lines. So Prince, what do you think? CJ says one stone cannot be used to kill two birds. Basically, that's what she's saying. What say you?
But looking at what I know about the law, all right, I think the former Chief Justice is in the right. Technically, she's absolutely on point because by reading of Article 146, clearly anybody reading that will see, which I have, that there are different processes for a Superior Court Justice, so being petitioned against, and then a Chief Justice, different processes. And it's obvious you have to have different processes because, for instance, you can have the process for a possible removal of a Justice of the Supreme Court done by the Chief Justice herself, because if that process for removal of any Superior Court Justice requires that the Chief Justice be the one who will sit on the matter, she or he will be the person that will review the petition. And so she can't be a judge in her own case in a situation like that. No, I'm saying that in a normal situation where there is a Chief Justice, that Chief Justice is the one who needs to be the judge in the case of any other
Superior Court Justice.
Right. Yeah. So obviously there are two different processes, and you can't use one process for the other unless a precedent is set by the Supreme Court itself. So there's a need for clarity. The president could not use the CJ's process, all right, and just say that, okay, because the CJ process, that's a higher position, so it automatically applies. You can't do that. As far as I know, in law, you really need to be very strict with procedure. And I think Article 23 talks about that. You really have to be right on the procedure. So the procedurally, it cannot be correct. But the court can tell us all what the way forward is. So removed, then automatically they are also removed as a justice of the Superior Court. Sorry. So that clarity is not there. And you can't just assume in law that, okay, because it's like this in a commonsensical standpoint, that person is a higher, so, you know, automatically, which is what the president did. It's common sense, but that's not how the law has been stated. So there needs to be clarity. All right, and the court needs to pass judgment on it. There could be instances where someone has done something strictly according to her role, administrative role as a Chief Justice, but it doesn't apply to her role as just a Justice of the court. It's possible. Okay, like one of the things we've heard is it has to do with a transfer of a person working under her. That's an administrative role. And any other justice of the court would not have to make such a decision at all, because you wouldn't be the one transferring anybody. And so assume that that was the only reason why the CJ was removed, right? Then in that case, how does that apply to her work as just a justice of the court? It will be, one will be totally administrative and may not have anything to do with her ability to do the role.
It's interesting because this
there needs to be clarity. That's all I'm saying. There has to be clarity. So technically, it looks to me that she's on point. We all have to wait on the court to decide.
Because the implications could be very telling.
Yes, what the president needs to be, so that we can all follow. But I have to also make the point that, you see, this whole thing is very clear, that the NDC wanted to remove this woman. Let's be very clear. I've heard the former Chief Justice, Sophia Kufu, who is very respected, has cross-party appeal. And she said that based on what she knows about the case against the now immediate past CJ, it doesn't warrant this action. But it was clear. Every Ghanaian knows that. Let me tell you, if you're an NDC person, and imagine that an MPP president did this, do you think you will be all happy with this? Obviously, you won't be. But it's partisan. We're in a partisan realm. It's very clear the NDC came in. They have a very strong majority in parliament, okay? A super majority in parliament. They have a presidency, and they won decisively. And the only thing left was a court that they themselves had been calling unanimous FC and so on. The president was on record saying that a new Supreme Court justice has to reset the place and so on. So they were looking for her. And to me, she's a victim of circumstance. Almost any other judge in that position, the NDC wanted no interference in what they believe to be absolute control that they have in the country right now. And they were going to remove her. And I think any objective person, except a partisan NDC person, will see clearly that all the accusations being used about travel. I mean, we're in this country where the current first lady back in traveled to the UN, and her per diem was said to be about close to $100,000 for that trip. $100,000.
We need to
and
go
this lady traveled with her husband. Imagine, God forbid, it was her boyfriend or something like that.
Let's not go into those.
I know, but this is her husband.
Let's not go into those waters. Gentlemen, we have to go into Kumasi to hear
of what?
The courts are there.
No, the courts are there.
Gentlemen,
why don't you go to the court?
Her removed.
I'm saying, why?
And every Ghanaian who is objective knows this.
So when Saroto Osei was removed, was it based on?
Let's get back to the matter of the
table.
Yes, I'm being very, very objective.
She has committed offences.
No, she hasn't.
And due processes have been followed.
Dr. Carl,
yes,
you would have to leave that to me. He heard you, you've heard him. For the Ghanaian people, what remains is what the court will rule. And it can go two ways. Either way would have consequences or effect or impact on our judicial system. If the High Court, or if on appeal, a court agrees with the former Chief Justice, then the expectation is that the removal might be declared invalid and she could be reinstated. Is that possible? Or at least the process could possibly be reset. And some would say maybe more clear constitutional procedures. If not, the case will further clarify the power of the president to hire and fire. And again, the power of the president versus the power of the court will also be under discussion. Some argue that it could weaken the efforts to weaken the power that the executive has over the judiciary. That's the argument for some. But the implications on public confidence in the judicial process and how strictly constitutional protections are enforced are also going to be talked about. So either way,
Can I say something real quick?
either way, we are in uncharted waters. Either way,
Yes,
Can I
Thelma.
say something?
Thelma.
there will be an
Thelma,
impact.
I think that, I see.
I'll come back to you.
Yes.
I'll come back to you. I think that we are ready to hop to Kumasi now, and then we'll pick the report from there quickly, and then we'll come back to continue the conversation. Today, the Asante Hima goes home following the so far dossier process that started on Monday, and for the past 3 days, today is the fourth day. We've seen thrones and scores and scores and scores of mourners going to Asanteman to mourn with the traditional authorities. And today our correspondent is back there again to bring us what is going to happen on this final day. Nicholas, good morning to you. Welcome to GTV Breakfast. We understand from an announcement that was made yesterday that today a certain amount of a curfew will be imposed in certain parts of the capital of the Ashanti region. Tell us about that and what the expectations for the rest of the day are on the outlook.
Good morning, Selma, and to your panelists. It's a fact that it is part of the reverence we give to the traditional hierarchy of our Asantema. You know, when we talk of Asantema, it's quite different from the political and geographical Ashanti region. That is quite restricted in terms of border, but Asantema spans beyond the borders of the geographical Ashanti region to cover the Hafo region, Bono East, and then part of Uti regions. And so that is about 68 or 70 paramounts in these areas that owe allegiance to the Asantema and the Golden Stew. And so that is what we call the Asantema, and that is distinctively different from Ashanti region. And so when we talk of what is happening in reference to the late Asante Hima, who happened to be the 14th on the stew, today happens to be the last day of the dossier, and I must also place on record that when we talk of dossier is basically about the traditional burial rites for a deceased person, and it is held when the remains lie in state for public viewing and for people to pay their last respects, and that is what we call dossier. So it's not anything extraordinarily, but for in their normal day life, the dossier for any other person usually lasts a day or less than a day. And so after the person or the mortal remains have been interred, then what follows becomes the final funeral rites. And so when we talk of the dossier for the late Asante Hima, we are talking about the customs, the cultures, and then the traditions that are involved in preparing the remains for final interment or for interment. And so for royals and for kings and queens who died whilst reigning, they are accorded such a grace and dignity. And that is why sometimes you have it spanning 3 days or 4 days. And so that is all that dossier we are having and we are hearing about is all about. And so as part of the reference to the status of the late Asante Hima, 4 days were declared for the dossier or the burial rite. And today being the climax of it all, the traditional leadership of Asantema has also, in partnership with the Regional Coordinating Council, that is the Regional Security Council that is in charge of the security of the region, have decided that today people can go about their lawful routine activities. They can go about it. Only that there are a bit of restrictions. And the restrictions include people going to do, who would have gone about doing their businesses, ordinary business or trading activities, especially within the city center. They have been asked to politely and respectfully stay at home for today, at least today. Then there are other service providers that are supposed to, you can't do away with them, so they continue to discharge their responsibilities. You talk of banks, you talk of health service providers, it's including the pharmacies and the drugstores. They are operating, the security services, they are operating. Normally, transport operators are going to operate because they have to ferry people to and from their areas. We also have the fuel service stations. They are also going to operate because even those who are going direct to Malaysia and who have a direct stake in what is happening, they will be doing the movement to and fro, and they will need fuel. So these people, fuel service stations are going to operate. Apart from these service providers, all others are also being advised to, at least today, in reference to the late Asante Hima, stay at home, but they still can move around, except that anytime from 6 p.m. or 7 p.m., moving down to the midnight, that is when the final rituals and the transition will be taking place.
Nicholas, thank you for sharing those details with us. It's important information that we need to give to our viewers in the Ashanti region area, specifically where the final burial rites will be held. And it's important that you know what to do as you move about the day so that you're not found wanting. So the understanding I'm getting from Nicholas is that from about, for the whole of today, many of the trading activities will not continue. People have been encouraged to close their shops and stay home unless they are essential services. And then towards 8 p.m., 6 or 7 p.m., some or more of the rituals will be performed and people have been asked to stay indoors. So do listen out for further information that will be shared across our platforms, and you will be kept abreast of happenings in or during the final funeral rites for the late Asante Hima. That's information for you. Gentlemen, let's take your final submissions on this, perhaps a minute each for both of you. And then I really want us to do one more story before we only have 5 more minutes. So a minute for you, Doc, and then I'll give same to Prince.
Thank you very much. I believe that I do associate myself with what my brother Prince said. The Chief Justice, I think it is her right to go to court
to challenge the
process if she's not satisfied with the outcome of what has led to her removal from office. And the courts, I think, will bring, clarity on the issue, so that, as my good brother Dr. Amache said, it will be a case study going forward for our young, law students.
Okay.
So, on this, I think I will just see.
We'll leave it to the court.
Yes, we'll leave it to the court.
Prince,
and then look
final
at
submission.
the next line of action.
Yeah, so I just want to clarify one thing. Charlotte Osei was someone who actually petitioned first against 2 of her colleagues, and then the 2 colleagues petitioned against her, and the president dealt with the issue appropriately. So let's not mix up, this idea that the president was the one who did anything to Mrs. Charlotte Osei. It was they themselves. They were infighting, and they got to the president's desk, and he rightfully dealt with the matter. In the what I'd like to say about the former Chief Justice, she needs to be very proud of herself. She has an impeccable record. She's a Christian lady with impeccable pedigree, and she's a patriot. But in this country, there have been people who have paid prices. I say that because I know that the loopholes that allowed for her to be removed so easily, it's going to be closed.
Okay. So
and that may make some people happy, and Ghanaians may all enjoy a future where these processes are very, very tight, but she has paid a huge price. Personally.
Thank you, Prince. Other stories making the rounds. A TikToker has been jailed 7 months for threats against President Mahama and government officials. Yesterday, we saw the announcement by the Minister for Foreign Affairs that some distinguished Ghanaians have been awarded diplomatic passports. It's creating such a buzz because some argue that in previous administrations, that diplomatic passport list had never been made public. And this time, the minister himself is making the announcement. So lots being said around those two topics. The viral TikToker who was jailed, he has apologized to the court for his comment, and he was charged 2 counts, a threat of death and then also disturbing public peace, and he has apologized and said that he will do better. President Mahama, big happenings in the road sector, the commissioning or the sword cutting for the redevelopment of the Atempoku Esikuma Enyawaseho Denu Aflao Road under government's flagship Big Push program. And this one is going to cut across the Volta and Eastern regions, expected to transform trade, agriculture, tourism, and the movement of goods and services. And that's coming on the heels of the announcement or yesterday's accountability series by the Minister for Transport, who told Ghanaians that the trains will be back in operation from October 1, specifically the one in Tema. So the president making that big push towards roads and infrastructure, and the transport minister also promising that the Tema Impakadan railway line will be operational on October 1. And exciting news for those who use the rail or used to use the rail. I wonder, I'll pick your quick thoughts on this one and then I'll start. A viral TikToker who threatened the president and other government officials has been jailed 7 months. Influencers, prominent Ghanaians.
I think for the sake of our democracy, it should be pardoned.
It should be pardoned.
It should be pardoned, and people, because there are people who have been chauffeured to Supreme Court and all that, who have said worse about people, but because they are not in the jurisdiction.
People said he incited hate.
Who?
The TikToker.
Yes,
incited
but
violence.
what do you think Kevin Taylor is doing? What do you think? You know, so Ghanaians, again, the people, they know what is going on.
You've mentioned the names, and I always say this. For legal reasons, I would want something to be brought to the table that says a court has determined that this and this has happened. In the case of this viral TikToker, the court has determined that he has said things which are deemed insightful,
hate speech.
And hate speech. So the conversation around what others are doing may be valid,
yes,
but we want this particular situation of this TikToker.
Right now in the country, one of the biggest worries is selective justice. I think, again, when I speak to Ghanaians. They know how selective justice is happening. We have a whole chairman of a party.
Did you see the viral video?
If I could just finish for a moment. You have a whole chairman of a party, vice chairman, attacking people, calling for their demise and all that. And then, you know, they said they've arrested him and granted him bail. Nobody saw it. But we also see that people are charged with misdemeanors and they're in handcuffs because they're MPP. They're shown to the whole country. Ghanaians know this. You have to stop it, and it's better for you. Just stop it.
Prince thinks that, you know, basically killing an ant with a hammer is what he's saying in the case of this, things that he should be pardoned. What do you see that happening?
I think that this will serve as a deterrent.
Okay.
To people who are in authority and who we have a case like your
a deterrent to people in authority.
No, it will be a deterrent to Ghanaians, anyone who want to, engage in that kind of life. But we have people, some, members of parliament in the past, who are now trying to become the candidate for MPP.
Friends, do we want to go to the past? The Ghanaian people have issued their
that is why I'm saying that.
Princess,
it is not any selective justice.
Officials, political figures are you
have somebody like
regular Ghanaians are thrown under the bus.
You have somebody like your regional chairman, regional chairman, like.
As I said, you guys can continue.
No.
Just continue. Keep doing this.
No, listen.
It's good.
Listen. Friends, I will condemn any such behavior by any of my party member or any Ghanaian. But I'm telling you that there are precedents right? Where even your own presidential candidate, Kennedy Ejapon, has said things that I don't think that even that doesn't give him that opportunity to contest as a candidate.
All right, the fact remains that there's mixed views on this, the verdict of the court. Many people feel that the law was right to act. Freedom of speech does not extend to threats, incitement or violence or public disorder. And they feel that some of the comments on media outlets and even on social media, freedom of speech is not freedom to perpetrate an illegality. So the other side is those who feel that we should exercise some caution because there could be overreaches and it's a slippery slope. They feel that this is setting a precedent for stifling dissent. And so two things, and that's understandable. We're going to wrap this up. The president says the big push, the roads infrastructure are ongoing. The transport minister said the Tema train will be back on stream. I'll take your final comments before we rise from here. I'll go with you first, Prince.
So President Akufo-Addo invested, at least I think on the Mpakadan route alone, about $400 million was put into it, unprecedented. These are all legacies.
But is the train on the road?
Well, the government is a continuum, so I'm happy to see that the NDC will at least get one of these things moving. It's interesting, they seem to be relaunching many of Nana Addo's projects because I heard about Atimpoku and all those projects are ongoing, but they are rebranding it. They want to try and take more credit for Nana Addo's legacy, but we will see. We're all here. We know. Please, if I could just finish.
When you took over in 2017, you will have your turn. Let him finish.
Right. So, but we know what we've done, the percentages we have done and everything, so we'll guard the record. But I've also seen that they've set up a monitoring unit. I think it may be a bit too elaborate. You wonder what the roads ministry does because they're setting up a whole shop as usual. They're going from the 2.7 billion cedis budget at the Jubilee House, and they are adding more administrative costs at the Jubilee House to do what the road ministry should be doing. But we're monitoring. We're keeping an eye on everything.
Okay.
I'm shocked you are mentioning this. Look, just compare even the number of workers at the presidency and your time at the Jubilee House. How many workers were there compared to what John Dramani Mahama has now?
So we're spending about...
And you are talking about the project...
7 times less.
And you are talking about...
Prince, let him have his final word. And you are talking about... Thank you.
Mpakadan Tema. Look, there is a case at the court that very soon you'll be hearing about what you guys did to the railway sector. Your government had a full-fledged ministry for railway. Full-fledged ministry for railway. And as of now, over $2.something billion cannot be accounted for.
2 point what?
Well, I think I would want that case to be out so that we can interrogate the details in there a bit much. In the meantime,
what I would say is that appreciate what John Dramani Mahama's administration is doing. As you rightly said, governance is continuing.
Okay, and
we will not do what you guys did when you took over in 2017.
Yesterday,
we are going to continue all the projects that was, initiated under your government, and it is going to benefit the good people of Ghana, not only the NDC people.
The Honorable Joseph Bukari-Nipe yesterday also talked about the welfare of the Railway Workers Union, who are threatening to embark on a nationwide strike by the end of this month if 12 months arrears of their salaries are not paid. So they're saying that for the past 12 months they have not been paid their salaries and other entitlements, and that the delay has caused financial hardship. The Transport Minister assured them that government will ensure that the relevant stakeholders meet to resolve the matter. And so let's see to the end of the month and see what the resolution is. But I just want to appreciate both of you for spending time with us this morning. I believe that we'd have to get out of here. We've already run beyond our time. but I appreciate you. I wish you a very pleasant day. Dr. Carl Mark Ahin, Deputy Director of International Relations at the NDC.